All right. Hi, everyone. We're going to be talking today about Facebook advertising. I'll get into some of the topics we're going to cover in a moment, but just wanted to give you a quick introduction about me. So my name is Kate Sweeka, and I am the Marketing Communications Manager at Avidia Bank. My primary role, I oversee all of our social media platforms, so all of our advertising, all of our posts, and even our internal employee advocacy program, and also handle all of our communications and PR. I've also had experience working as a consultant and at an agency with a variety of different industries, big and small. I'm a public speaker, so this isn't my first time doing one of these great webinars. And I'm also an instructor at the Center for Women in Enterprise. In addition, some of you who are familiar with the Metro West Massachusetts area, I'm on their board of directors as their communications chair. And just for fun, on the weekends, usually when I'm not working or doing some of these things, I'm also a skier and a trail runner, and I love to cook at home. So, and with the snow outside, it seems to be my favorite for skiing. So let's get into what we're going to cover today. And of course, feel free to drop your questions in the chat box, and we'll be taking them at the end. And I'm happy to refer back to any of these slides as we go along. So we'll be talking about the introduction to Facebook paid ads, what types of ads that are out there, and I'll show you some different examples of them. We're also going to talk a lot about boosting versus campaigns. So this is something that people often have questions about. What do I do if I want to boost or campaign? Do I do both? So we'll talk about that. How you can get started. We'll talk about using Facebook Pixel so you can track website traffic from Facebook advertising to your site. What does audiences and targeting mean? How to set your budget. Metrics to know how your advertising is actually working. And then we're going to go through some content ideas and, of course, troubleshooting, because Facebook always changes its platform constantly, and there's always a lot of questions out there. So let's move into the introduction to Facebook ads. So by now, you've probably used Facebook a little bit personally. You've probably used it for your business so far, but maybe you want to dive a little bit deeper. And we've seen a lot of this, particularly in 2020, due to the pandemic. A lot of businesses started to go towards more digital channels to put out more advertising because we couldn't see people in person and use traditional media. So Facebook ads are a great way for us to reach an even broader audience, or to get your message in front of more people on what's considered to be the world's largest social network. We all know about this dreaded Facebook algorithm. Everybody talks about it, and you see this little whiteboard here in the bottom. It can be a nightmare, and I don't have all the answers on that, but Facebook advertising can help when you're dealing with different blocks in the Facebook algorithm, and we'll talk about that in a minute. You can also target your ideal customers using audiences and reach your most valuable customers to get the greatest ROI. So why would you go into Facebook ads? Well, you've probably already been posting and engaging, like I said, on your business page. You reach your followers, but maybe you don't see as much engagement that you used to. Maybe you don't see as many clicks or likes or shares or comments. So if you want to boost that engagement, advertising is a great way to reach that. Perhaps you're hosting an event. Hopefully one day soon we'll be able to host in-person events, and you want to get more people there. Advertising is a great way to do that. And maybe you're looking for new customers or even more reviews. You want people to review your business. Advertising can help do that too. So when you're ready to take your advertising to Facebook advertising to the next level, this is what you look to next. And we'll start here talking about how you can start very small and grow it from there and experiment with some different things. Now, this is a question that I get a lot. Why do I have to pay? Facebook is free, right? Social media is free. Why do I have to pay? So like many media channels, you have to pay to advertise. So if you think about it, you may get a press release published in a newspaper or a publication, and that's free, right? You'll get some free somewhat advertising in that. But to do additional advertising, you're going to have to pay, because that's how they make money. So it's the same thing here with Facebook as well. Next, we're going to go into types of ads. Now, there are literally hundreds of types of ads for Facebook that you could do. I'm not going to show them all to you in just an effort to conserve some time here, but I'll show you some of the ones that stand out the most, and that you can start off pretty easily with, and then some more advanced ones that you can work towards as well. So the first of these is an image ad. Now, this is the simplest way to get started with Facebook advertising. These are also the most common ads that you'll see out there. If you already have a great image, which I suggest if you're not already using images on social media, you should be. This is what catches people's eye. This is what we call thumb stopping. So as you're scrolling through your mobile device, you want people to stop and pause for a minute, look at the ad, be captured by it, and hopefully take an action. So again, this is a great way to start. I would suggest, if you're going to get started with this, to use an image that's already getting a lot of likes or comments or shares, and use the tool that's called Boost. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But this is just a great way if you're just looking to get started and you found, this ad in particular here is, very bright. It's very poppy. It makes you pause for a minute. And you realize it's an advertisement for socks. I initially thought it would be for shoes or fashion or something, but you realize it's for socks. And this ad was probably already performing very well as an organic post. So may as well put some money behind it and see how much better performance you can get out of it. So the next one here is an image carousel. So unlike the previous one I just showed you, which is just one static image, this is multiple images. And what's nice about putting together a carousel is that, you can display this as almost like a catalog, or you could do it where you have the image kind of split up into different pieces. And I'll show you an example of that when we talk about content. But if you have multiple images that you'd like to put out there, a carousel is a great way to use this. So this is an example from Tom's. They use a few images that they strung together. Usually this is a campaign post, so it's typically not a post that you would boost, but this is a campaign post that you would create a campaign and run it for maybe 30 days or 60 days or 90 days or so forth. You click through on this right-hand side here where you see the arrow on the black shoe, you would click through and see more images. And the point for a lot of these ads is to get people to click through, to almost browse and see something that they like, and get them to be intrigued about what's next behind that next click of the arrow. The other unique thing is that if you look down where underneath the shoes where it says shop now, there's a button there, and you can customize each of these images, each of these calls to actions, and you can customize the links. So you can see here, this is specifically for the red plum canvas shoe. The next one you can see is the black leather with a tassel. So you can see you can really customize things and get people directly to that landing page to make that purchase. Another plus here is that these ads can also be used on Instagram. So these are already optimized for Instagram. You can get them to be used in a similar fashion. And as we know, Instagram is integrated into Facebook because they are the same company. One caution here, if you don't have an Instagram account set up yet, don't feel like you have to get one right away. I wouldn't do it just for advertising, but if you are already established on Instagram and you have it linked to your Facebook business account, then certainly go ahead and use it. It can't hurt. There's a lot more traction you can get out of that as well. But don't rush out the door to start an Instagram if you don't have one yet. So it's not a requirement. So we've talked a lot about images. Now let's talk about videos. So maybe you created a video for an advertisement, maybe a TV advertisement, for example, and you want to repurpose it on Facebook. This is a great place to publish that. So you can put it into Facebook, have it play. You can do autoplay, and you can see that there's a link. So this is here from a video bank. This was a video commercial. You can see that there is a link down below where you can click to the website. Now, this is even better in a lot of ways than getting your ads out on television, because you don't really know if anybody picks up their phone after seeing your ad on TV and goes to your website. But here you can see, okay, well, somebody saw this ad and they actually clicked to my website. So that's some nice data for you to collect there, and then you can retarget them. And we'll talk about that in a minute with Facebook Pixel, but you can retarget them to continue to see your advertising if they're showing interest. Another option, if you don't have a professionally made commercial like you use on TV is something like a Facebook Live or a video that you make. A lot of people I've been seeing lately have been doing interviews. They show behind the scenes. They have videos, just like some fun videos that they post out there sometimes about their employees. Those are all content that you can reshare and post as an advertisement. So don't feel like it's limited to something that's super polished. It can be something that's, just a live stream of something that you save for later and you post later on. One of our top performing videos of all time was actually a live stream of a building demolition that we did to build a new branch location. So when we did that, a lot of people tuned in, and then we took some advertising dollars and republished it out to people in that same geographic area who were intrigued by the building. So that's a great way to use that. Again, wasn't super polished. I shot it in a snowstorm, standing in a parking lot, and it wasn't anything super exciting and animated, but it ended up performing really well for us. Okay, so let's move into collections ads. I talked a little bit before about the different carousel ads, but this is a little bit different take on that. This is if you have, let's say, a really great e-commerce store. So this is a great way for you to display what you have available. I saw a lot of people use this for their businesses during the holiday season. You can showcase items that people might want to buy. Again, visually creative, looks really, just makes me want to stop for a minute. And this allows people to make basically an instant purchase from here. It's a great way to show off new products as well. So consider it to be like a virtual showroom. And again, it's great for e-commerce or Etsy type crafting sites. Now we're getting into a little bit more advanced here. So a lot of people, when they start playing around with Facebook advertising, Facebook will give you the option to do something called a canvas or an instant experience. So consider this to be like a small miniature landing page that is mobile optimized and for a specific product. They're just a full screen experience. The ad loads way faster than if you click to a website to make an order. This is one from American Express. So if you look through, this is actually inside Facebook. It's not actually bringing you outside of Facebook to their website. So this is all the information you need. And if you click learn more, then it'll bring them to their website. So this is a really great way just to create like a mini landing page for your ad. You can do this in addition to, let's say, one of these. You might have a collections ad and somebody clicks on it and it brings them to this instant experience. So again, pretty advanced for this, but everything here is also customizable. You can have this completely branded however you like. You can see here that they used their own specific fonts in here and that they have the credit card placement. So you can create all of this and repurpose a lot of this content from maybe your previous ad like this one. So the next one, as we're talking a lot about mobile here, is stories. So Facebook and Instagram both have the capability to do this virtual experience that is completely vertical, meant for the mobile phone, and that is upright. So we're doing this Instagram or Facebook stories. So the reason being is that Scientific American found that 72% of millennials won't rotate their phones. And I actually don't think that many other age groups besides millennials will rotate their phones to watch a video. So stories ads are this full screen vertical video format that basically pop up and you just get this full vertical experience in your mobile phone. These ads are very effective. If you have a vertically shot video, this is where this can be repurposed really well. Again, don't feel like you have to blow all your budget making a vertically shot video, but it also makes it really easy because this could be something that's shot directly on your phone and you upload it to this experience. The other thing with this too is that more than half the people said that they were making online purchases because of story ads that they had seen on Facebook and Instagram from this survey. So this is a really great area of opportunity and not a lot of people leverage it. So obviously Honda, they have a ton of money, they can do that. This is a really nicely put together, polished ad. But if you have, video editing capability in your cell phone, which many of us do. Shoot a couple videos, maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, and publish it out there and see what happens. You might be surprised. Okay, so we talked about the different types of ads out there. And again, I told you that there are hundreds of different ads, and Facebook is always introducing new ones out there. And of course, I threw in the mix Instagram as well, because I couldn't not mention them. But where do you get started? There is so much out there. So before you get overwhelmed with this slide, let me go through this with you. Think about first what your goals are. What I encourage people to do is at this point, write down your top 3 goals. Is it to introduce your brand to a new audience, to grow your brand awareness? Are you trying to expose your ad to as many people in your audience as possible? Are you trying to get more traffic to your web page or to an app? Or maybe you want to drive them to Facebook Messenger to start a conversation with you. Perhaps you're looking for engagement. You want people to post to your page. You want them to claim a special offer, maybe write a recommendation on your page or a review. Video views, getting people just to watch your videos. There's a lot of people who are in the entertainment business out there that are leveraging this for video views to get more people to watch. Maybe you're trying to get more people into your sales funnel using lead generation. Conversions, of course, getting people to take a specific action on your website, like subscribing to your email list or even buying your product. Catalog sales as some of the ones that I showed you. And then ultimately, for many of us who have brick and mortar stores or brick and mortar locations, getting customers in through those doors to the brick and mortar. So don't be super overwhelmed by this. This is just a listing of some of the goals that you can use for advertising on Facebook. But like I said, I recommend just taking 3 of these to start and say, okay, these are my top 3, and then prioritizing your number 1. So have your top 3 in mind all the time, but prioritize your number 1. And most of the time you'll see that it starts with brand awareness, and then it evolves into some of these other options here too. So now let's look at what these goals look like in Facebook Ads Manager. So when you go into Facebook and you go into their Ads Manager, their Business Manager page, you'll be presented with this here. So these are the different marketing objectives. I just explained them for you in this previous slide a little bit more, but these are the different marketing objectives here. And you can select the exact goal that you're looking for. Now keep in mind, there might be more than one. And let's say you are looking for engagement, but you also achieve brand awareness, right? So some of these things might happen at the same time, and that's totally okay. But let's say that engagement is my number 1 goal. Out of those ones that I just mentioned, engagement is my number 1 goal. So then you're going to select that. And from there, you're able to determine what kind of content you want to put out there. So let's say for engagement, you want people to comment below. You want people to share your post. You want people to RSVP to your event or write a review on your Facebook page. But maybe for brand awareness, your call to action is just to get people to watch a video or to get people to get to know you a little bit better. So that's really important as well. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that there are 2 different types of campaigns you can run on Facebook. There's boosting, and then there's campaigns. So I'm going to go through these 2 right now. First, let's talk about boosting. I recommend that most people start with boosting a post first. This is where you want to start with your first campaign. If you've already been using your Facebook page for posting and getting engaged with your audience, you'll want to start with boosting. And this is important because it'll get you familiar with a Facebook advertising platform. It's kind of like a Facebook advertising light. And really, it's great for people too who aren't ready to commit to a full campaign and you're just trying out Facebook ads for the first time. When I mention campaign, I usually refer to it as something running longer than 2 weeks. Boost, you can run for as little as 3 days if you'd like. Boost is also really helpful if you want to highlight something really special. Maybe you have a big event coming up, you're having a big sale, grand reopening, you have some sort of new message that you're putting out there, maybe you have a new brand, new product. This is a great way to use that. Another way is to boost top performing content. So I showed you that first image advertisement there, if you see it's getting a lot of likes, a lot of engagement, this is a great place to do it for the first time, is to put some money behind it and get even more engagement and more followers to follow along and engage with that piece of content. And you can also use target audiences and reuse those audiences time and time again right here in Boost too. So a lot of people think, well, if I boost the post, I can't ever get that audience back, or I won't be able to retarget them later on. It actually gets saved into your ads manager platform. And what I recommend is you writing down exactly who that audience is and what their purpose was initially, so you can track that for later on. And Facebook will allow you to change those names at any time. Now, my final recommendation on boosting is don't boost everything, please. I see a lot of people do this and they boost every single post. And first of all, if you boost every single post, you're gonna see performance and engagement drop because everything is exciting, right? And people just tune out after a while, they get ad fatigue. But the other thing is sometimes you might boost everything and then you realize that you shouldn't have boosted it in the first place, right? So if you have maybe a negative post that you have to put out there, right? Maybe you have to close early for some reason, or, I mean, we're in the age of the pandemic. Maybe there's something that happened where, you know, you had an employee who was exposed to COVID and you have to post that. You probably don't want to boost that because it's not really positive. It's not really going to bring you any more business, and it's really just going to waste your money. So just keep in mind, don't boost everything. This is really saved for something that's really, really special and kind of a one-time thing, or when you're just getting started. Now let's move on to campaigns. So why would you use a campaign? So we've graduated from boosting maybe we've boosted a couple times, we've posted a couple of posts, we've seen them perform well, but now we want to run something a little bit longer term. We're thinking about maybe a 6-week brand awareness campaign. We get more people to follow us, we get more people to engage with us. This is going to be something longer term. This is also a place where we could post things like multiple pieces of content. So maybe during our whole entire boosting session, we decided that, okay, we saw the top 10 pieces of content, so I'm going to repurpose this into a full-on campaign. And that's beneficial here too, because when you run a campaign, people get ad fatigue really quickly. And ad fatigue means that if people see an advertisement repeatedly, they actually start to forget about it, or they actually start to resent it. So I want you to think about if you're watching a television show and all of a sudden an ad comes on TV, right? I'm just going to say, like, let's say the Verizon wireless ad comes on TV. So you see their ad every single commercial break for that entire show. And by the time you see it for the 12th or 18th time, you're just really annoyed, right? And so this is what happens with ad fatigue. So having multiple pieces of content, so that could be a couple of videos, it could be a couple of image posts, maybe you're sharing clicks to your website, maybe you have a carousel post, whatever have you. It will prevent people from kind of getting that resentment and annoyance toward your brand. If you ever do see that your campaign is performing really well and then all of a sudden drops off in performance and engagement, it's likely because your audience is starting to feel ad fatigue. And we're going to talk through this a little bit later on when we talk about audiences as well. Okay. So we talked about different types of ads. We've talked about setting your goals and where to get started and what a boost versus a campaign is. Let's move into where to find Facebook advertising. Now, it's not where you probably think. Normally when you go into Facebook, you're in your regular personal news feed. So what you have to do is get over to Facebook Business Suite. There's a couple different ways you can get over here. There's Facebook Advertising Center. There's Facebook Business Suite. For many people, it looks very different. But wherever you manage your Facebook business page, you should be able to get to it fairly easily. So this is Facebook Business Suite. You can manage all the things here. You can see your advertising, you can see your native posts, so things that are just your organic posts with no funding behind it. You can also see your inbox, your activity, your insights, and your performance here. So this is a quick and easy way to get to it. And this is fairly new. So Not everybody will have this, although I think it's coming out soon. And then the next thing here is looking at in the ad center. So if you click on ads, once you're in Facebook Business Suite, you'll be able to get over to your ad center and see everything. So another place where you might see it, because again, not everybody has the same right now. Like I said, I think it's going to happen for everybody eventually, but is Ads Manager. So if you look in Ads Manager, you go into your Facebook business page, you can click here to find what you're looking for. And here's basically a hub where you can get your audience insights, you can get your creative going, you can edit your different posts, you can see all your automated rules, which we'll touch upon shortly. And then this is also where you'll find all your measurement and reporting. So all your analytics and performance, this is where you'll find it. A word of caution on some of this, and I think this is the purpose of Facebook Business Suite, is that if you go into Ads Manager, you'll only see measurement and reporting for your paid advertising. So your organic or unpaid posts that you put out for free, you won't see in here. So for those of us who manage social media for our living, usually I have to generate 2 different reports and merge them together. And like I said, I think that this is why they're creating Facebook Business Suite, so that you can see everything in one place, but it's a little bit clunky right now. All right, so before we get into performance, let's talk about getting set up on Facebook Pixel. So if you have a website, I definitely recommend setting up a Facebook Pixel if you're going to be doing advertising. Pixel is basically for lack of a better term, a piece of code or a cookie that goes onto your website that allows you to measure cross-device conversions and create custom audiences from your website visitors. So basically ensures that your ads are shown to people who are most likely to take action. I mentioned earlier if somebody clicks on a post or clicks on an advertisement that you have out there, you can then trigger anybody who clicks on that advertisement to then continue to see new and fresh advertising every single time they come back to Facebook from you. And then track where they go from there. Maybe they demonstrate ad fatigue, so you have to put out different creative to them. Maybe they suddenly make a purchase, so you know that that's a success, and you can measure that through Pixel. So you'll be able to see if people take action on your Facebook ads, but you'll also be able to reach this customer again. And you can set it up as a custom audience. So you can set up different custom audiences, like people who liked my advertisement, people who didn't like my advertisement, people who visited my website, people who made a purchase, right? Maybe you want to have them come back and make a secondary purchase, or you want them to leave you a review. So this is a great way to continue to retarget them over and over again. This is all called conversion optimization. So Facebook Pixel is free. You can go right into the Facebook Pixel Help Center, and they have step-by-step directions on how to put it onto your website. Basically, like I said, it's a small piece of code that you put on your website, and you label different pieces of it. If you have a web developer, you can get the code and send it over to them. But it's fairly easy to put in, and they'll tell you right here in this help center on how to get to it. Okay, let's talk about setting up your budget. So how much do you spend on Facebook? And of course, I always hear about all these different rumors about how Facebook is going to charge people, or what's the minimum budget and things like that. But I'll tell you that it's up to you. So you can set your daily, monthly, or the whole length of the campaign budget. So let's say you're running a campaign for 3 months and you want to spend $800. So they'll charge you the $800, but nothing more than that. Of course, please consider that higher cost is also higher reward. So there's a couple different ways that they value this here. The first is a stronger piece of engagement, like a click to a website, versus an impression. So if somebody clicks on your website, that's going to cost more. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But if somebody just sees your ad, right, or they just scroll through and they see your image or your video, that's an impression, right? They just got some brand awareness. It's a great place to start for people to get to know you, but you're not really getting a lot of engagement on that. Click means you want a conversion. So purchasing form fill, download, what have you. This shows more interest, but that's why it costs more. I'll also let you know that Facebook will never charge you more than what you have put in. So if you say, I want to spend $800 on my 3-month campaign, they're going to charge you pretty close, if not exactly $800 throughout the length of that campaign. Facebook also requires a credit card on file. So for those of you who prefer to do things via invoice, they will prefer to have a credit card on file. So now the next thing is to talk about those placements or bids. So I mentioned about impressions versus link clicks. So this is where you'll find it. Again, impressions, that's great for brand awareness. You can grow a lot from that. Link clicks are a little bit more valuable. I usually tell people if you're going for brand awareness or you're starting out for your first time on Facebook advertising, go for impressions first. But if you're really doing something big and you want to drive a lot of traffic to your website or drive a lot of RSVPs for an event or something that's a little bit more heavily weighted, go with a link click here or CPC. I also recommend doing automatic placements and bids. I've never met anybody in the industry who's been able to do their own placement and bidding. Basically what will happen is Facebook will put your advertisement out in front of the target audience when they're most likely to see it or when they're most likely on Facebook. So for example, if you were trying to advertise to people who are 9-to-5 working professionals, you probably aren't going to do advertising on television during daytime television Monday through Friday, right? You're gonna probably do it in the evenings or in the later evenings or maybe early in the morning. So that's when you wanna get that group. So it's the same thing with Facebook. They'll determine when some of those audience users are most likely online, and then they will advertise and put your ad in front of them. The other thing to look for here, so I showed you where you could see some of these ad scheduling information, but also when you're in your Facebook Business Manager, you can see where the automated rules are located. So they're right here underneath the Create and Manage. You can look at all your automated rules and you can change these at any time. Another tip here for automated rules, if you have a larger company and you're advertising on Facebook, you probably don't want to likely waste your time advertising to your employees because they already work for you. So you can exclude anybody who lists themselves as an employee on Facebook, which is just a little pro tip. It'll save you a little bit of money and help you out as well. I know some people really love to see their own advertisements out there, but it does save you a little bit of money by not advertising to your employees, and that's where you can set that in here too. Okay, now I'll move into metrics. So how do I know that this is working for me? I've been doing Facebook advertising for a while. I'm looking at all its performance. How do I know if it's working for me? Of course, we would all love it if people were coming in and purchasing our goods and services, and they all told me that they saw my Facebook ad. But more likely than not, they won't. So let's go back to your goals. Remember when we talked about what goals you were setting at the beginning of all of this? Maybe you were looking for more engagement on your page or event RSVPs or purchases through your website or video views. This is where you'll want to look for it. So in that Facebook Business Suite or Business Manager, you're going to look under the Analytics tab. Now, remember when I mentioned things like impressions. So impressions mean that there is more people on your page, more people viewing your advertisements, viewing your posts. That's what you want to look for in terms of impressions. If you're looking for engagement, however, you want to look at things like clicks or comments, shares, reactions, messages on Messenger, RSVPs to your event. Those are what you're looking for, and you should be able to see that all on your dashboard here. You'll also see additional information. There's so much information on these dashboards, but they'll tell you how many more people visited your website that were driven there from Facebook. What time of the day did they see your ad and that made them go to your website, which is also great information to know, because going forward you might say, wow, a lot of people actually clicked to my ad at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. Maybe I should advertise more often at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. So this is some great information, and you can get this pretty quickly. Um, I do recommend when you're looking at your analytics to don't get too obsessive over it, because you can get lost in a lot of this and like analysis by paralysis, right? So what you want to avoid is logging in every few hours and seeing how the performance is going. Especially with Facebook ads and a new audience, it's going to take sometimes up to 3 to 5 days before you start to see those performance metrics come in, because it's still learning. Again, that Facebook algorithm, which we don't know a ton about, but we know that it's just constantly out there learning and adapting to optimize that content. So give it a few days. And if you see that performance isn't doing well, or like I said, you might have ad fatigue and all of a sudden that engagement falls off, what you might want to do is change up your audience or change up your content, and just see if it performs better. So this is a great way to detect that really quickly and change your tactics really fast. What I do recommend is also having a plan for that. Know that it's going to happen. It's totally okay that it does. Just have a plan with some next content ready to go. So next we're going to go into some content ideas. I showed you some examples earlier of some different content and some different types of advertising. Here's some ideas just to kind of get you started. So the first thing is going back to that Instagram carousel. This is something here that you kind of look and you see it's cut off. And what you want to do is get people to click that little arrow. So if I go to click that arrow, I'm going to see the rest of the image. Right? It's very satisfying. A lot of people click through these, especially if they cut it off in that way. You see people who just want to swipe through and see what it is, and it's intriguing, especially if you have a really nice image that's going to stick in people's minds. So look for things that are bright, that are colorful, and that are intriguing. What's also nice with these too is that you can do A/B testing. So you can run the same set of ads to the same audience, or two separate sets of ads to the same audience. So I could do this ad and maybe a different ad and see how they perform and see what performs better. Maybe people like this one versus the other images that I used. This is another great example. So this is bold colors. It's got a strong value proposition. This is something that I would call thumb stopping. You stop for a minute and it's about Slack, right? At one of the work chats that we have out there. So clean call to action, very easy, and just makes people want to stop for a minute. Another one here, this is some examples of some that are branded and really bold. Again, going with that bright bolded color, and you have all the branding here. And despite that, let's say Starbucks on the right-hand side, this is not typical. Usually we're used to seeing them with the green color, but we knew right away it's Starbucks just because of how it's presented, the signature trademark that's on there, the colors, even though they're pink, we recognize that as a Starbucks drink. So that's a great way to get people to just pause for a minute. This also makes it really shareable, right? This is fun. It's kind of fun and exciting, and people might want to share this and say like, hey, Kate, you want to go grab this drink with me, right? So, this would be right up your alley because it's your favorite color. So this is some great engaging content to put out there. I like the New York Times one too, because this is one that everybody knows, that New York Times signature font and how they do their advertising. It's always very consistent with this bold and bright colors, and then their traditional font. So again, something that's stopping you, but as soon as you see it, you know it's New York Times. You don't even need to read the words. Another idea for content, especially for paid advertising, is timely posts. So this is a great one on Star Wars. Going after a current event or trend. Williams-Sonoma has an entire Star Wars line that they put together, and they promoted it. And right, if anybody who's a Star Wars fan, which you could easily target on Facebook, you could put this out there, especially with The Mandalorian and things like that. Put out a Star Wars campaign, right? So this was something that worked out really well for them. I would just provide a word of caution in terms of current events and trends. Just be cautious over things like polarizing events or jumping on hashtags. But if it's something fun or something related to your industry, certainly jump in and do some Facebook advertising. Here's another one. So again, using that video content, this is easily shot video content. This is a DIY video. So people, this is the #1 trending video on pretty much all social platforms, Facebook and YouTube, where people just like to see DIY. You know, they like to see things in action. This one was in particular was sped up really quickly, but it gets people's attention for a brief moment. They're just intrigued and want to find out more. You can also repurpose a lot of this content on other platforms like Instagram Reels, TikTok, and you can create this content using them to download that content and repost it to Facebook. So a little pro tip there too. All right, so now let's get into quick troubleshooting and some other questions that I get a lot. So the first one here is, why can't I boost a post? So a lot of times people say, I posted this post or I reshared something from another page, but it won't let me boost. I'm not getting that little boost this post button. And this is for a couple of reasons. This post might be owned by another page. It might be from a personal user. It might not meet the boosting standards by Facebook, or it may not have enough copy or imagery in it. It also could be a violation as well. So a lot of the pandemic posts that were out there, anything that had the word pandemic or COVID, Facebook was prohibiting anybody from boosting or advertising. So that could be a reason why. Of course, you can ask for a manual review of that, but typically they're just going to prohibit that across the board. Speaking of manual review, sometimes when you create an advertisement and submit it to Facebook, you'll get a notification saying that your ads are currently under review or your audience is currently under review. And the reason for that is that Facebook will review your ads, particularly if you work in a regulated industry, such as healthcare, legal, finance, banking, the like. And sometimes, you know, they'll just randomly review ads as well. It doesn't take very long typically. It's usually, you know, and it's usually reviewed by a machine, you know, by a robot, but sometimes you can ask for a manual review too, and ask for some human eyes to be on your advertisement as well. Again, it doesn't take very long, and it'll let you know when it's starting to run up there for you. Are there any special rules for Facebook advertising? So not really in particular. Again, I would just stay away from things that are polarizing. Make sure that you're promoting your products, your services, your trademarked items. Sometimes people promote things and don't realize that it's from another company, or they're not allowed to. So I would just make sure you're staying within your own realm when you're doing advertising in particular. Another question I get a lot is, a person from Facebook contacted me, so a lot of times this will be phone or email, and they said that they're going to help me with my ads. Should I let them? So I would recommend no. Usually this is somebody who's not from Facebook. Typically it's somebody from an ad agency who's reaching out to you to try to get your business. Facebook has offered some optimization classes, and you can find that on Facebook under Facebook Blueprint. So if you want to learn more, certainly go with that. But if somebody contacts you, typically it's a consultant or an agency looking to be hired by you. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but should I do Instagram ads? Again, only if you already have Instagram and you're using it every single day or using it frequently. Don't run out and get an Instagram account just because you want to run ads on it. You want to have some established content out there first. If you choose to start an Instagram account later on, certainly go ahead and do that, and then you can add in ads afterwards. And then can I have different levels for the Facebook Business Manager? So the answer is yes, and I definitely recommend this, especially from a security standpoint. So you can have people, let's say you have a freelancer who does your Facebook advertising for you, or you have maybe somebody in HR who posts jobs to Facebook for you. You can set those different levels and administration levels on Facebook. And I recommend just reviewing these every quarter and making sure that you have the right people in there, you have the right agency in there. You don't have an ex-employee who has access to your Facebook page anymore. So just check those every so often. And then in this PowerPoint as well, I have a bunch of resources for you to check out. These are some great resources on how to advertise from Hootsuite and from Social Media Examiner and Ad Espresso and Facebook ad guides for beginners. There's a lot of great resources in here. Again, my recommendation, start off small, see how it goes, and take your time with it, because I think there's a lot to be done with Facebook advertising, but it's easy to get really frustrated and overwhelmed. And with that, see if we have any questions.